Hi everyone, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Lemuelo Caban. I am Numerous Tahoynan, and welcome to our integrated music and Western subject. For today, I will be going to discuss the classical and art music and folk and popular music. Let's tackle first the classical and art music. Classical. The word classic tends to mean an art. Classical music is a confusing term with more than one meaning. In the visual arts, the term classical refers to ancient Greece and Rome. Classical music is an art music produced or rooted in the tradition of Western culture. It has a lighter, clearer textures than Baroque music and is less complex. It is mainly homophonic melody above chordal accompaniment. Classical music has been noted for its development of highly sophisticated forms of instrumental music, such as the symphony, concerto, the fugue, sonata, and mixed vocal and instrumental style such as opera, cantata, and mass. Let's find out what art music means. Art music, alternatively called classical music, cultivated music, series music, and canonic music. Art music is an umbrella term that describes music originating from Western classical music. Art music is considered to be of high aesthetic value, which typically implies advanced and structural and theoretical considerations or are written musical traditions preserved in some music notation. Art music is a catch-all term for any music that is enjoyed by a smaller crowd. This can include the more challenging types of jazz and rock music as well as classical. As we can see, classical and art music is somewhat related, since they are both music and both originated from Western countries. In the 1700s, Western Europeans became very interested in the ancient classical style, which was imitated by many artists, sculptors, and architects. Art historians call that period the Neoclassical or the New Classical. Unfortunately, nobody really knows what the music of ancient times sounded like. So instead of being influenced by the sounds of ancient Greek music, 18th century composers were influenced by the ideals of classical art. The music of Mozart, Haydn, and early works of Beethoven are in this style, which we call classical.
What do we mean when we call something a classic? Whether it's a classic car, a classic novel, or a classic cheesecake recipe, we call something classic when it's both an oldie and a goodie. Did you know that there's a more specific meaning for the term classic? When it started to appear as a French word in the 1600s, classic didn't just mean something vintage and classy. Classic was used to describe things relating to the culture of ancient Greece and Rome. At various points in Western history, people have looked back to ancient Greek and Roman civilizations to inspire the art of their own time. One of those times was music's classical period, a part of music history that lasted from the mid-18th century to the early 19th century. During the classical period, music wasn't the only art form to find inspiration in ancient Greece and Rome. In an artistic movement called Neoclassicism, that means New Classicism, painters, sculptors, and architects were also finding inspiration in the forms and subjects of Greco-Roman culture. While neoclassical painters were busy imitating the values they saw in ancient Roman art, classical-era composers were also working rationalist ideals into their music. Just as form and symmetry were important in David's painting, classical-era composers organized their music into orderly forms using repetition and contrast. One example is a popular genre from the classical period called sonata allegro form. Both music and art found inspiration in ancient Greco-Roman culture. In the visual arts, this was called neoclassicism, and it was a reaction against an earlier, lighter style called Rococo. Neoclassicism celebrated the Enlightenment values of morality and rationalism with forms and subjects influenced by Greco-Roman art.
Let's move on to folk music and popular music. Let's find out what folk music and popular music means. What is folk music? Folk comes from the German word Volk, meaning the people, and folk music is often thought of as being the music belonging to the people. Folk is a term used to describe all sorts of musical, oral, and cultural traditions from specific regions and societies around the world. It has been historically used as a reflective term to distinguish certain types of music from those associated with institutions such as royal courts, the church, or Western classical music. The folk music of a culture is the music that passed down from generation to the next, often without writing it down. It includes many different kinds of music, such as lullabies and children sing games, tunes that everyone enjoys singing together or dancing to, songs for celebrations, ceremonies, and holidays. Let's move on and find out what popular music means. What is popular music? Popular music literally means music of populace, similar to traditional folk music of the past. As it developed in the 20th century, pop music, as it has come to be called, generally considered of music for entertainment of large numbers of people, whether on radio or live performance. Popular music is also a general term for any type of music that is or has been top seller. This includes types of rock music and some kinds of jazz. The modern recording industry has changed things, though in many cultures, pop music has largely replaced folk music as the music that everyone knows. Unlike folk music, it has usually been written recently and belongs to professional musicians. The term pop music can refer to a specific kind of popular music, as in bubblegum pop. As the rise of recording pushed aside traditional music, some musicians made a point of recording traditional folk songs so they would not be lost altogether.